Okay, hello you guys. It is a talk in this area today. Um, I just wanted to come and make a video. Just I don't even know where to begin. And I really wish that I could put together a presentation so it could be a little bit more organized, a bit more clear, maybe a bit even easier to follow, and even fact check. Um, and I mean that so that I could like have all of the references that I've ever, maybe not all of them at once, but like share the references of where I have gleaned, you know, different bits and pieces of what I believe to be the truth from that help shape my beliefs about me and other people and what we're supposed to be doing and how that can come across. Because I know people like to have proof because I'm a person who, on my journey of just really just getting closer to God, coming from a church background, from the Bible, coming from, feeling the need to always have a reference point because people don't want to, hear what you're saying, just if you're sharing, right? They need proof. People need evidence. So knowing that, and I'm not going to say that I'll never do it, but I have sat down and literally tried to put a PowerPoint presentation together before. And it's always limiting for me because I always feel like I don't have all the information yet. And that's probably the Virgo, the Virgo energy in me. But the Leo be like, okay, get it out though. Like where you have, start where you are and just talk. And even if it's not talking, just share what you have in said PowerPoint presentation. I digress. Talking is easier for me to just get on here and share from that place that I am. I am an avid reader. I love to read. I've always loved reading. Um, and I also want to say that before even reading, I've always had conversations with God. It's been in my mind and our thoughts. And I know that other people are like me. We're always dialoguing. So, you know, I remember years ago, if I would have heard the statement that I'm about to make right now, in the state of mind that I was in, I would have sworn that whoever was going to say, whoever the person was saying what I'm about to say, was more than likely some demon. Just trying to justify why they don't read the Bible. Okay, so here we go. Which would be an assumption in and of itself, unless, of course, they clearly stated that they don't read the Bible and they've never read it. But here's what I know: we do not need the Bible, we don't even need any other book. The only source of information that we've ever needed was to live this life and to remain open to the connection of God that is already innately within us. That's all we needed. And that shows up through thoughts, it shows up through our dreams. You know, the Bible talks about it in the book of Job. And though Job was not necessarily an Israelite, I do believe that he was a Hebrew man. One of the first, right? Before Israel even became a nation. I digress with the background info, but I'll say this. Job, his encounter and his experience with God afforded me some very, very life changing and important information. First for myself, but then for other people who might be like me. And I was reading the Bible and I really love reading. So, and I also really loved reading the Bible. It was like the best freaking novel or book or movie ever to me. And it still is. Um, But I was reading over in Job because it's such a prominent scripture growing up in church. Everyone likes to reference, you know, his journey, how hard it was, but the beautiful blessing and the double portion that he received after. But I remember in church, nobody really went deep into what that man was talking about. So, anyway, I digress. In my studies of my own, and in my reading of my own, just because I enjoy gleaning information and reading and learning, I will never forget when the Spirit of the Most High showed me the way that God talks to people. And it's not the only way, but it's one of the most prominent. I'd almost say it's like the first point of contact for us. Like in a conglomeration or in a business, how people have their customer service representatives. Yeah, dreams and visions are that for the Most High. It is our first line of defense. It's our first line. And so in Job, it talks about how God gives instructions and also warnings to men. And when it says men in the word, it doesn't just mean man, although it definitely means man, but it can also mean a woman, a boy or a girl, right? So that's mankind. And it says that God gives instructions or warnings to men in their dreams while they sleep and seals the instructions. I have been a dreamer for probably even longer than I know. Like, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm mixing both the current way that I believe and I know now with what I used to understand back then. We are all asleep and we are participating in this grand dream. And I say that because one thing I've learned about a dream, when you are asleep, your spirit is free to go to whatever parallel it needs to experience so that you can get instructions or so that you can receive the warnings of God. Your spirit is free. Your body may be in one particular place, but your mind is not. And so my understanding of us being asleep, even here right now in the parallel that we are, means that our spirit is free. Our mind is free to really get and receive all the messages that we're meant to, and even we're able to transmit messages to others in different parallels right now. And all of that is beautiful to me, and it is dynamic. This video is getting really long, and I didn't come initially, well, I really didn't have a set place of where I wanted to start, but you guys, this is inspired by the fact that I constantly, and I know that I'm in good company, all right? I know that I'm in good company with being attacked because of my understanding of scriptures and this life and journey that I'm a part of, and thus the way that I move, my actions, how I speak. That comes under scrutiny a lot by really whomever. People are free to judge and reason the way that they choose to, from the level, from the perception that they are on, right? And I get that because I do that too. I'm not exempt from that, right? I was chief, like Paul likes to say, I was chief in that, right? That was until, I had another encounter, because we don't just have one encounter with God. There's not just a one-hit quitter encounter and we're done for and everything is fine. It's not like that. It is a series of encounters, and then these tests to show us and to prove us whether or not we are learning the things that God is trying to teach us. And when I say God, I am talking about, yes, the creator source that designed us in this experience, but I'm also talking about myself, because we have to be a part. We have to be a part of the experience. So I have to end the video here because, yeah. Or maybe I don't. I was trying to upload a video to TikTok, but maybe I'll put it somewhere else where more lengthier videos can be. But I understand having a limited perception based upon our current experiences and where we're able and how far our mind is able to project. I get that. What I will say is we never needed a book because God and everything that we are meant to know about God is literally encoded in our DNA. And that has been scientifically proven already. I hope that I can um, find the clip, but I saw it on TikTok, I want to say. So if it was on TikTok, it's probably on YouTube. But there was a scientist who literally, he was minding his own business, researching things, and just, he had questions and he was seeking answers. And that's the way we have to be in this walk. We have to be little scientists, little analysts, right? And we don't even have to be, that is what we are, right? We have these hypotheses, we have these experiences or experiments that we are a part of and that we even bring on to ourselves. And from there we formulate opinions and truths and biases and all of this shit. With that being said, the man talked about how the discovery of the name of God is in our DNA. It is in our deoxyribonucleic acid, which literally means it's in every fiber of our being. It touches everything that makes us us. God is there. And before I even heard that information, you know, just me being myself and being honest with myself and brave enough to admit certain things to myself and even other people. I don't remember how old I was when it occurred to me that I was still able to remember experiences from when I was a baby, an infant. Like, an example of that would be I can remember trying to communicate to my parents, talking to my parents as a baby. I remember me looking at them, trying to convey a message of feeling uncomfortable because I have pooped and I'm uncomfortable with sitting in it. And they're looking at me and they just think I'm so cute. And they're trying to figure out what is going on with me. And they're talking to me in the baby talk, and I'm like, do you not hear do you hear me? Like, I can hear my voice. But that was in my head. This is in my mind. This is in my thoughts. That I hear myself processing this information, but the way that it's coming out to my parents is a baby crying and babble. Babble. Language. Moving on. There was a language barrier even between my parents, who I come from, my gods, who I come from at that time. There was a language barrier. At any rate, I remember remembering that. And I was like, my God, how can I even remember that? Who remembers stuff like that? And there are instances where that has happened for me. You know, I can remember being a kid, a baby, and then a toddler, certain things that I explored or that I thought, or that I just knew. And I remember being older, much older, a young adult, and I shared it with my own father, and my father was like, there's no way that you remember that. You're lying. You are seeking attention, and okay, daughter, it is enough. And maybe that was because I'm always saying, that used to be that I was always saying, I know, I know. I said that so often when I was a little kid, a little girl. And I know that my parents would be so frustrated because they're like, girl, you just got here. What are you talking about? You know. And I would get in so much trouble because I said I know so often. And I really felt that I did. And in times, I knew what I was talking about. My parents just were like, you couldn't possibly know because you're only this year old, like, you know. But enough for the rambling. The point that I'm trying to make is I learned that at certain points in our lives, information is unlocked. I remember sharing with my father how I remember having a conversation with God before I arrived here. And it wasn't like I'm face to face with any being, at least not in the recollection that I was having. It was more about telepathic communication. I understood that I was being sent somewhere. I understood my assignment. Like I was being briefed before I made my entrance into this realm of existence. And I remember God, it's like God told me everything I needed to know before I got here. And then as I'm coming somehow out of the birth canal, it's like everything that I was told was somehow sealed for me. And even though I knew it all, and it was somewhere within the recesses of my mind, which I also see as the heart, it would have to be unlocked per experience. And it would be at appointed times or after certain signs or seasons had occurred. And this information would be unlocked and given to me. And so I knew that coming here, and somehow that recollection came up as I was a young adult woman, and I was kind of made fun of for knowing that and remembering that. But that was a very real experience for me, and I knew that I knew what I was talking about. And it was so true for me. Only for years later to come me finding out information that is considered new age doctrine or wisdom and insight, that it is true that people, children and others alike, can remember their experiences prior to being born. So that alone tells me that I never needed a book ever. I only needed to exist and to have that interconnection open to source. And when you're open to source, you're open to every experience that you have ever been a part of. Even if you are currently in your current experience unaware of that. But if you remain open to the God source, you can draw from that former experience. It can be very healing and therapeutic, and it can be a point of guidance and wisdom for us. I'm going to digress here. I'm going to have to come back at another time and maybe talk about this more. But it was inspired because so many people, you know, discuss things like divination and tarot, and they vilify one thing while upholding another. And I no longer, I will say this, in certain ways, I'm sure I do that still, just no longer in this particular way, because I've been opened up to more. So, and it came both from within me, you know, that same inner voice that has been speaking to me and been guiding me this whole entire time, as well as through books and information that have been shared from other people who also are connected to this same source. Before I go, I also want to remind people that angels and demons are two sides of the same coin. I need you to know that. And I want people to understand that angels and demons both are privy to the same information, because demons are angels who left their first home. And to be quite honest, I literally see the war of heaven in my own existence. I can't speak for other people, but the way that I perceive things, I see this war that is talked about in scripture that people put off kind of from themselves. I see it as literally what happens to each of us. We leave from our first estate, which is in total oneness with the divine, understanding that we are powerful, and knowing we are God, knowing all things, and being in all places at once, omnipotent, just like God. And we leave that estate of being in harmony and balance with God and everyone and source to a lower estate, which is our demonic, right, aspect of us. And the war that is in heaven is the war that is within ourselves. It's in our minds. Who and what energies will we allow to be our God and our power? Where will we choose to derive our power from, our influence from? Will we remain in the lower vibrational energies that hurt ourselves first, but then others, and wreak destruction and havoc in our own lives in the world? Or will we work to climb out of the proverbial pit and choose to ascend to a higher state of consciousness, which in turn, also alters our estate? It changes where we reside. And I mean, as far as energetically and physically, it changes that. I digress. I hope that some of the things that I said makes sense. And I hope that in some way I've given proof of the esoteric nature of the Bible. The Bible is not just face value, no matter what people say. It is so much more about the state of our own consciousness in our lives, should we choose to use the wisdom that is within it. All right, until next time, peace, love, light, and darkness, which all work together to bring balance and harmony, first within ourselves and then within our world. I will be back because this is a topic that I'm very passionate about. All right, guys, if you understand or you resonate with the messages that I'm talking about, go ahead and leave a comment, share how. Also give the video a thumbs up. And if you are new, no matter what platform, well, it's going to have to go on YouTube or something, because this can't go on TikTok. But if you're new to my platform, go ahead and give me a follow. I do follow back, or subscribe, rather. I subscribe back. Bye.